What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. The Hoenn region was the first to come out on a fancy new system, and the first to separate itself a bit from the first two generations, truly showing that this Pokémon thing was going to stick around for a while. And while I personally love the Hoenn region in general, and certainly the Pokémon that are found there, it's not without its problems. So, here are my top 6 Pokémon problems with the Hoenn region. Number 6. Devon Antics. There have been numerous influential companies over the years in the world of Pokémon, and the Hoenn region plays host to seemingly one of the most far-reaching, the Devon Corporation. They do many things like, well, I'm not quite sure what they do exactly. Something about Pokeballs? I do know that they're responsible for the new Mauville project, as well as the equally mystifying and sinister Sea Mauville in Oros, which are designed to draw on infinity energy, also known as the energy of dead Pokémon. The main issue with Devon is that their messes somehow become your problems. Even before your first badge, you have to rescue one of their workers from a grunt. And then right after the badge, presumably the same incompetent worker loses some parts that you have to recover. Once you do, you talk to the company president, and instead of maybe paying you for your work, he sends you on another thankless errand and takes you to Dewford, and then on to Slateport, where then you can finally do what you want to do. Not to mention that they're responsible for building the sub that the evil team steals to awaken the legendary Pokémon and terrorize the entire region, which means that they're indirectly to blame for all the destruction. Also, Devon is involved in the Moss Deep space program, which had the brilliant idea of using infinity energy to open an ultra wormhole and basically nuke another Hoenn with a meteor. So, to put it plainly, Devon is a corporation with severely questionable moral stances and even more questionable selection techniques for employees, since they have to constantly be saved from bankruptcy and disgrace by a 10-year-old. Number 5. Diving. The division between land and sea is a recurring theme in the Hoenn games, so it makes sense that they would delve deeper into the ocean than ever before. Literally. In Hoenn, you can dive under the water to explore the world of ocean life. The only problem is that it's super boring and useless. You can use the dive feature to find a few of the legendaries, which is pretty neat, but beyond that, it's just a slow-paced stroll around an underdeveloped map. Some of the locations have some kind of seaweed where you can have some wild encounters, but the rest are devoid of any life. These range from giant, empty, bottomless canyons to a single tiny spot with literally nothing in it. They made multiple areas in the game whose only possible purpose could be to make you waste time by watching the dive animation. Why they would make places to go with absolutely no value is beyond me, but it leaves a major problem in the games for something that could have been done much better. Number 4. Route fatigue. Every Pokémon game is guilty of repeating the same encounters over and over again in the wild. And while this was definitely present in the first games, it becomes even more glaring in Generation 3. There are almost 400 Pokémon at this point. Why am I still running into the same 3 animals? I know that the idea is to convey how common they are compared to the others, but even in areas in which they live, I can take at least a few steps without being constantly attacked by squirrels. And even if they are common, they wouldn't be common everywhere. You should not still be finding Zigzagoon in the wild after 6 gyms. They at least should have evolved by now. Talo is the regional bird, but it only appears on a few of the early routes and is pretty rare. Somehow they couldn't even get the bird to help relieve some of the pressure from the same mons over and over again. That's a form of universal route fatigue. Another is more confined, but just as bad. When a route has certain unique Pokémon on it, but those are the only few that seem to live there. A good example is Route 110, beneath the bike path. Here you can find the rare Electrike, and Pokémon that aren't anywhere else, being Gulpin and Plusle or Minun, depending on your version. And aside from Poochyena, who is another overly common occurrence, that's it. Those are the only possible encounters over and over and over again. It's exciting the first time to catch a new one, but then they constantly throw themselves at you without any variety until you get to the next section of 3 different pre-programmed encounters. Just a little more variety goes a long way. Look at X and Y. The first forest has maybe 8 to 10 different possible encounters. You could easily make it through to the other side without even having run into everything that lives there. Some things are still a bit more common than others, but there's more than just the copy and paste feature that plagues many of the routes from the Hoenn region. Number 3. Dewford. Yes, the whole town. The whole island, really. This place is truly the armpit of the Hoenn region. Nothing about it is up to par with the rest of the region. It's so far out of the way, there's literally no convenient way to get there. Maybe they did that on purpose to try and hide it, but if that's the case, then they didn't do a good enough job. The town is just such a waste. You come all the way to arrive at this stinky place? They don't even have a Pokémart. How do they get groceries? Does Mr. Briny have to take a special trip every single day? There's a lot of unused space on this island that could be filled with other buildings, or at least a route with some unique Pokémon on it. It does have a cave nearby, which is the best part of the island, but there's no point to it other than a fetch quest. All they needed to do was give it the slightest bit of purpose. You could have found the fossils in the cave there. Or, better yet, have the place where you resurrect the fossils be on Dewford. There's already enough happening in Rustboro. There could be some kind of Devon field lab that studies the caves that would let you resurrect the fossils and actually make Dewford a place of at least minor significance. They're a tiny town, cut off from everyone else, stuck in the bottom left corner of the map, with the only thing of note being a fighting-type gym. Do you know what I just described? Cyanwood in Johto! Dewford just copied it, except they somehow did it worse. When you're outdone by your equally boring and useless predecessor, you're probably better off just scrapping that whole section of the map. Number 2. A poor layout. I love the Hoenn region, I really do. It's a lot of fun to play through, but also can be a bit of a hassle. It starts off in a pretty simple linear fashion, but once you hit the middle, things start to get a little convoluted. After going through Mauville, you're ready for the next gym, but when you try to go to Lava Ridge, you can't. You're forced all the way up past the volcano, through another town, and then to Meteor Falls to fight the evil team. Only then can you go up Mount Chimney and have a chance to fight the gym. And once you do, you have to face the next gym, back in Petalburg. That wouldn't be a problem, except that you're unable to fly or surf at this point, and there's no direct route there. Your best bet is either to go through the Rustboro Tunnel, then through Rustboro, then through the forest, then get back there, or go down the bike path to the bottom of Slateport and take the boat all the way back. Either way, it takes far too long, and takes just as long to get back to where you need to go after you've beaten the gym. Next you go up to Fortree City, but you have to move past it because of the Kecleon there. And if you forget, you can just keep on going to Lily Cove, and the story will continue without you beating the gym. You can literally go through the entire game until the Elite Four won't let you in before you have to go back and face Winona. If you can bypass an entire gym leader, you know that the game has been set up poorly. The same can be said of Mount Pyre, when you can completely miss the side mission to pursue the evil team and just go on to Lily Cove, as the map would naturally lead you, especially if you get distracted by the Safari Zone. I love the Hoenn region, but they really need to invest in better ways to get around, because as it stands, even simply following the main story at times can get incredibly messy. Number 7.8 out of 10, too much water. So, there you have it. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, they did go a bit overboard on the water. I understand why it's set up that way, I really do. The balance between the ocean and the land is a theme in the game, so I'm not complaining about that part. My problem is how they went about it. Surfing in Pokémon has long been its own special form of torture. If you saw my Kanto Problems video, then you know how I feel about caves, and that reflects surfing rather well. Even though it does make sense, it's infuriating that every inch of the water has the potential to stop you in your tracks. And guess what? It's another Wingull or Tentacool, further contributing to the route fatigue. And while they tried their best, it's so hard to navigate the water once you get even a tiny bit out from the shore. Without any markings, there's no way to tell how far you've gone, or if you've even been to this spot before. There are a number of potential cool inlets with items or trainers, but to find them, you have to search every nook and cranny around the edge of the vast, unforgiving seascape. They do have rapid currents in one portion of the game to break up the monotony, but it's soon replaced with the frustrations of dealing with a fast-moving tile puzzle. Currents were a good idea, but making them a maze was not. Instead of making the player try again and again to navigate the same tiny strips of water, maybe you could have just had some fast-moving currents go from one route to the other. Then it would essentially function the same as ledges do on land. I get that they wanted to emphasize the importance of the water, but to do that, you have to do more than just add a bunch of it. As it stands, the water is just that annoying thing that you pray goes by quickly so that you can make it to your next respite on land and continue the actual game. So, those are my top 6 Pokémon problems with the Hoenn region. And if I could just take a moment to brag on all of you. A year ago, today, I broke just over 100 subscribers, and now it's well over 9,000. I have so much love for all of the Imperials out there. So, you be sure to let me know your Hoenn problems down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!